European stocks dropping this morning primarily on some earnings reports coming out of Europe. That's not going to impact us at all. There is a article talking about goodbye to $100 oil, hello $3 a gallon gasoline. I don't know about that. Right now we've got 95.72 on a barrel of oil. That's good news. But look, we still got plenty of unrest. I mean, we just got a report that Chinese Navy is in position to now strike any American city with a nuclear warhead as a result of their new submarine fleet. So that out, and they're even talking about the war games that they've just completed that would, or the training that they just completed, that would indicate that is the case. Now, if you follow me on Twitter at Financial Issues or my Facebook page, Financial Issues, you will see an article that I sent out about that. And, you know, at the top of the article, I said, why would you do this? Just ask for your money back. So I don't, I'm not feeling at all threatened by a nuclear war from China. China does not have to go to about the business of destroying America, which they're not going to do for a couple of reasons. They need us agriculturally and they need us economically. So if they wanted to kiss their economy goodbye for a period of time, instead of doing it through a nuclear weapon, just call Jack Lew at the Treasury Department and say, hey, Jack, send us the cash. We want our money back. We're cashing in our bonds. I mean, they can win a war without firing a shot. And and they have to say, oh, Jack, by the way, we want it like today. I don't know if we can run the printing press that fast, but we'd have to give it a try so that we could pay back the $1.2 trillion that we owe China. So when you start to read now from this moment on, as this report came out, as we start to read and you start to get panicked over it, remember what rules the world. It's not our Lord and Savior. We know that. It's not the biblical truths that this country was founded on. We know that. What rules this world is the almighty dollar. That's what rules the world. And regardless of what China threatens, they wake up every morning saying, if I don't create 8 million jobs today, there's going to be a revolt in this country and we're going to lose power. The last thing they can stand is an economic collapse. And punishing America with economic collapse is punishing themselves. I'm not saying they wouldn't do it. Dictators, communist nations have done dumber things, so maybe it's possible, but I think it's unlikely. So we won't worry about that, but I think it's interesting to note that they are quickly, while we're cutting our military might, while we are cutting our position as strong, as we have an ideology in Washington that believes that we can become stronger by becoming weaker. That's the ideology. That's what they believe. We have China growing their navy and their military might to record levels in the last 3 years and continuing to allocate more money to their defense and military than they ever have in the history of that nation. But we'll be strong because we'll just talk everybody out of everything. Or we're going to talk Iran out of a nuclear weapon. Don't worry. We can be weak because in the end, we'll be stronger. That's not me, folks. That's the ideology in Washington speaking. Anyway, let's take your financial questions. You're listening to Financial Issues here on American Family Radio Network, Biz TV Network, and lots of other local and national radio networks, and we sure appreciate being here every day. Today is Friday. Friday, we try to take as many calls as we possibly can. 866-300-9298. Let me go to Gary. Gary's calling us from West Virginia. Hey, Gary.
Good
Gary,
morning.
yep. Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you.
Hey, I've got a company-sponsored 401k with T. Rowe Price.
Okay.
My company will do a 3% match.
Right.
But I want to start contributing, but I'm not sure how to do so and make sure that my money is not being invested in companies that participate in practices against my Christian beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
How can I proceed in selecting a fund
Yeah.
that's safe to do?
Well, that's a great question, Gary. Let me ask you real quick before you go. How old are you?
39.
Okay. Here's the thing, Gary. It's almost impossible. You're not going to get a stock mutual fund that your company is offering through T. Rowe Price that is biblically responsible. You can, I mean, I say that with an awful lot of confidence because I know all these stock mutual funds are all investing in the same things. Some of them are worse than others, but it's not going to happen. Now, there's two things you can do. One is go to your human resources people and use this as an opportunity, not in a radical way. Just say, I'd really like to have opportunity. And I think there's others in the company that would like to have opportunity to invest in, what we perceive are God honoring or biblically responsible. Can you add the Timothy Plan mutual funds? Now, they may say no. If they say no, they're lying, but they may say no because they don't want to do it. Now, here's the thing. It costs a company not one nickel. As a matter of fact, it costs them very little aggravation. It may cause a little aggravation to the third-party administrator, which is what the company pays them for, is to deal with that aggravation. But it's no sweat off the company's nose to add mutual funds. So you can ask them, can you add the Timothy Plan? They may, and I've had callers say to me that, I asked and they're considering it and then call back and saying they're going to do it. I had one guy call me back. He said, went to his human resources and they said it's a violation of separation of church and state. It was a private company. I mean, it was the most ridiculous statement. I said to him, did they really say that or are you just messing with me? He said, no, they really said that. So, who knows what they'll say, but you ought to ask the question. Here's the other thing, Gary. So what I would want you to start with, if you can do it, is the 3%, obviously. If you put the 3% in, they're matching 3%. You've just made 100% on your money. You've just doubled your money. There's no better deal than that. So there's not a whole lot of reason that you need to take a lot of undue risk by investing in some risky stock funds, particularly risky, over the next year or so. Now, you're young, and I would prefer you to be in some large cap growth stock funds. But I appreciate your heart in what you want to do a lot more than that. So, I am grateful for that. So what I would say to you is, in all likelihood, they probably offer 2 or 3 bond funds. Now, I'm not saying the bond funds are 100% biblically responsible, but they very well could be, because a lot of them are, not because they choose to be, just because it's the circumstance of the bonds that they invest in. Or maybe they are. But if it's a bond fund that is investing primarily in government bonds, U.S. government, maybe some foreign government, then it's okay. Now, you're not going to get the great big gains from that over the course of time. But remember, you've already made 100% on your money. Now, obviously, if you never contribute, if you only did it one time, that 100% turns to 50% next year, it turns to 25 the following year, and 12.5 the following year, and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, it's still a good return in this market, and continue to contribute every single payday, and you will always have money going into the account that is earning 100%. So that's the best thing you can do. You cannot not take the 3%. I don't want anybody to give up the free money and the opportunity to double your money. You can't give that up. I mean, even if you had to just sit in a money market account or something, they have a short-term bond fund or something relatively equivalent to a money market account. I would rather you do that than not do anything. So you need to participate, but that's where I'd start. Human resources, and then look at your options. You can ask the question if you have someone to call at T. Rowe Price or however they have it, which is the least risky of all of these, because that is likely to be their bond fund. But they might have one or two or even three bond funds that they offer. So that's what I would tell you to do, Gary. And I think that'll work out for you. Thank you, Gary. I really appreciate your heart in that, man. God will bless that, and you need to stick to that. And thank you for it. Let me go to Wayne. Wayne's calling us from Louisiana. Hey, Wayne. Go ahead, Wayne.
Hi. I'd love to get your thoughts on buying land and or property. I'm convinced it's a good investment because you can harvest the timber, grow crops, or if it's commercial, rent it out. I'm not too certain on the tax implications on all that, and I know you can tell me more about it.
Okay, great question, Wayne. It's a question I'm getting a lot lately. Here's what I think. First of all, the very best investment from a real estate perspective, in my opinion, is any kind of agricultural land. Now, I don't mean from an income standpoint, because you're not going to make a lot of money from an income standpoint by leasing that out to your local farmer. But you'll get some income, and you should get enough income to pay the taxes. As a matter of fact, I would base the income that I get on at least getting enough to pay the taxes on that. But when I say it's the best real estate to be investing in, I'm talking about from an appreciation standpoint, from growth. In other words, if you pay $50,000 for it, it could be $100,000 in, short order in the next 5 to 10 years. And I believe in agricultural land. As far as real estate, if it's home real estate, residential real estate, I'm not big on investing in residential real estate unless it is something that you're buying a foreclosure that you've negotiated very low with the bank that owns the property. There's plenty of these properties out there, even if they're in bad shape, and invest $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, paint, clean up, do what you got to do to show the house good. And I think you can make some money by the sale of that property, in the near term. So I'm okay with doing that as long as you're buying it well below the market value price. So that would be okay. The other thing, as far as rental properties go, I'll say this about rental properties: as long as you're not buying them for the appreciation value. So I'm buying a rental property for $100,000. I'm going to sell for $200,000. Don't do that, because it's not going to happen in the next 10 years. But there is no better way. If you've got $100,000 and you want to invest in a rental property and you're going to collect $1,000 a month, whatever the rents are, you're not going to. There's no way you're going to get that kind of consistent return on that $100,000 with a relatively low risk as you will in a rental property. So I like it. Now, the reason I like it is because I like income, and I like anything that is producing good income. But remember, with that income comes some aggravation. You got to be a landlord. I personally am not cut out to be a landlord. I have one rental property, but some people are. And are okay with it, and that's great. So that's kind of where I am with it. I think that that should give you a good overview of the real estate market. So that's what I think. So, keep that in mind as you think through what you're going to do in real estate. But I really like the agricultural side of things. Let me go to Kathy. Let me just look at the clock before I go to Kathy. Yeah, I guess we can get you in here, Kathy. Go ahead, from Texas.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm a little older than 65,
Okay.
and I have a small 401k, and my business matches 4% to my, if I put in 5%, they will match 4%. They
Gotcha.
won't go any higher than that.
Okay.
And I don't have any control over that 4%. And, of course, I don't have any control over where I'm putting my money, except that I can move it around. You know what I mean? I don't have control over who's taking care of my money.
Yeah, right. I understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A couple of years back, I had a loss of about $3,000 within 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled my funds because they had it in mutual or some kind of stock.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't real happy with what kind of return I was getting anyway. And the fees were, I thought, a little bit high for what they were doing. So I pulled my money within that group and put it in a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. A money market.
Okay.
It's not earning anything, but I feel like I'm putting 5%, they're putting 4%, so I'm gaining what? That's 90% of what I'm putting in.
Right.
I just want to check with you and see if that's a good situation to stay with. Was I
Kathy, Kathy, I'm going to let you go. I'm right up against a break, but listen on the radio, and I'm going to answer it as soon as we get back from this break. 866-866-300-9298. Financial Issues, American Family Radio. I'm Dan Celia. We'll be right back.
I know many of you have a bucket list that includes